a model, a descriptive model to describe the carbon sequestration in a Fourier conventional and conservative rotation using digestate from anaerobic digestion or no tillage, and to try to quantify in a descriptive way the amount of input in your system and the crop management and the residues that you put, the amount and the type, the quality of residues, and you can understand how much is the credit after 20 years. You can estimate it. But for example, here you have 500 data in 3 farms in Veneto region in the north of Italy, and in one farm, for example, you have different in conventional. You have some soil that have an sequestration soil that make a carbon sequestration, but other soil in the same farm, they make a carbon emission. So you can have you are in medium, but this is for understand that is very site specific, the carbon sequestration, because soil is like human in heart. So if you want to understand the density of human in heart, for example, it's different if you go in Tokyo or in Sahara. But it's important, you can have the number, but your number have to go in the correct scale. So every analysis in soil have to be in correct scale, regional, farm, local or global. And the number is very different. The significance of the number is very different. But we have some principles, some scientific evidence that it's possible, feasible to increase organic carbon, like cover crop, like no tillage or reducing tillage.
So quickly, how about reducing chemicals? How about reducing fungicides?
Yes, it's very important to understand that to make clean, sometimes in Italy, in agriculture, farmers said, I want to make clean, like with herbicide or geodisinfectant or something like atomic bomb that destroyed, but soil are alive. So you make clean. This soil, if you make clean, is not resilient. So you don't have adaptation to climate change. So if you have zero adaptation, if you have a clean soil, it's better if you use hydroponic. In the other direction is to increase biodiversity, to increase organic matter, and if you do that, you have a lot of potentiality to reduce organic carbon in atmosphere, because soil is the major sink, for carbon in the biosphere. It's double than atmosphere, and it's important to understand the different soil, or in the same soil you have different conditions and characteristics to have site-specific sequestration. But it's important, you have to do that. Maybe after 20 years something change. If you do the organic measure of organic matter in your soil, maybe you don't have the exact prediction. But maybe if you make the same analysis 10 meters after, you don't know, but maybe it's like in a wildlife park. Maybe it's not randomized, the distribution of carbon. It's aggregate. city in the world, like animals. But if you don't know the number of lions in your wildlife park, uh, i if you want to increase, you know what I have to do. The illegal hunt, you have to to go against the illegal hunt. You know that. So in this direction, you know what I have to do. But so if you don't know exactly the number of lions in your natural park, it's not so important. So we don't have to put the chart before horse. And sometimes scientists try to have problem because there is a lot of exception in soils. It's very complicated, the soil interaction and the diversity and variability. And so sometimes there is every time someone who said, no, man, you have to take into account also this variability to have, if you go deep in soil or if you take in this direction is very dangerous because our organic matter in soil decrease in the world, and it decrease, it's dramatic. In Italy, 10 meters of soil every second is for sealing is destroyed. It's not reversible. It's very difficult to increase organic matter in soil, and it's very easy to lose organic matter in soil. So we have to go in the right direction. It's not important to understand exactly how much is the increase, but not for that we have to move in this direction.
If you were to quantify, how much do we understand and how much we don't understand yet, how would you quantify that?
It depends. I said before. Now, if you want to know the density of human in heart, you can't say a number. You count all people in heart, so you count all carbon in world, and you have the arable land. But after, if you go in Sahara, this number is have not significance. So the significance of number is depend of the scale, is depend of the context and your objective.
Yeah.
So it's only number. A number is not policy, but the policy don't have to be only the number. Have to be the direction and the right direction to have the good objective. Our objective is to increase organic carbon in soil, and but this is different for every soils. Scientists said to increase, it's necessary to increase research, but not stop policy in waiting research.
Yeah. And so in terms of,
okay, we can.
Yeah, okay, let's get up. We've been kneeling on the ground at the moment.
Yeah, to touch the soil.
But yeah, no, in terms of, to reach those targets, in terms of policies.
Yes, we have the target of four per. Say the French people in COP21 1 year ago say that if you increase the 4 per mil project,
the
4.000 project is you can answer the increase of organic carbon in atmosphere with this increase in all arable land, but it's very difficult. But the direction is clear. Is for that. It's my message. Very important. The scientific evidence is clear. It's very difficult to quantify it because your objective is dependent to your scale and so on, and the time. Because why we do that? We make a description and we make a simulation for 20 years because after 2 or 3 years There is no changement in organic matter in soil. That is, but because the variability is high.
And that doesn't depend on the context?
It's
It
really
does
depend on
the context.
not depend on the context and depend on the sampling, on the time of the sampling. Maybe depend on the point exactly of the sampling, and maybe it's not enough. but there is some evidence to the processes that you said if you have no till, for example. Maybe it's better if you don't use too much herbicide because in the other way you make like atomic bomb and you destroy your possibility to increase organic carbon. Or for example, if you put organic matter in soil and after you put a lot of nitrogen, you have a problem because we have a carbon nitrogen ratio that is the exact ratio with the macrobiota can transform the organic matter and mineralize it. So if you want to increase yield, you can put after your organic matter, you put a lot of nitrogen and you can increase yield. But if you want to increase carbon, you don't have to put too much nitrogen because in other way all carbon is transformed. So for example, this is an example that a good practices have to be integrated in your system, and a lot of management have to go in synergy with this direction. If you use synergy, probably it's very difficult to understand after 20 years the amount. Okay, but it's important to use energy. You have to use synergy, so if you don't have the exact amount, it's not important if you do the right things. Another point is the transparency of that, because a lot of time scientists and modelists have model very complicated, because you know when you study for all your life something so difficult like soil, you have a lot of complication and you try to understand all things. That is the problem. If you not increase your accuracy if you take into account all, because you increase the error also. And it's better to have something that everybody can understand. So, if, for example, in our model, we take into account clay and mean annual temperature and total carbonate, okay? But only this, with this, we have a lot of difference in the soil, okay? But maybe there is a lot of other things to it for increase your precision method. But it's better to have something transparent that the policy can understand, then people can understand, then every people say, you have this result because you use this amount in this type of input in your soil, or residues, or crop rotation. You have a answer to your strategy. The answer of your strategy have to be transparent, have to be very easy to understand. So if it's not precise, but the description is clear, and the evidence of scientific is clear, you can compare different strategy.